Hello and welcome to the Singapore Turf Club here on Horse Sense. I'm Mohit Lalvani to bring you, well, all the action from the world of horse racing. Well, when we were with you last time, we were actually at the International Race Weekend in Singapore where we saw Singapore's local hero, Emperor Max, run second. I went behind the scenes at the Singapore Turf Club and caught up with not just his trainer, Stephen Gray, but with the champion, Emperor Max himself. In Stephen Gray's stable, we are with, well, Stephen Gray's champion, Emperor Max, and not just Stephen Gray's champion, because this is a horse that's done Singapore proud by running second in the Chris Flyers sprint. More or less did everything that he could have possibly done, came to win it, just unfortunately came against a horse that was just slightly better on the day. But Stephen Gray's with us, and Stephen, what an incredible moment that must have been. He's gone back-to-back in the Chris Flyer, run second time round.
Well, it was actually. Was probably this time was a better thrill because you know everyone knows he bled his last campaign, his last run, and we've had to get him back. And yeah, so it's been a challenge. And at one stage there, when he angled out, I thought, geez, he might win it. So you know, but of course the other horse is probably rated as the best sprinter in the world now, and he's just probably a bit too good on the day.
Now, you know, you talked about the fact that he bled. It can't be easy, so it's a bit of an effort training a horse like this and getting them right. You know, how nerve-wracking is it?
Oh, well, it is definitely, because you don't. It's a fine line, and he's a big horse, so we've got to work him, and it's just hard work and planning, and hopefully it comes right. And we work with the vets very closely, and they're very helpful to us. And but you know, might have been a one-off thing, so let's hope it was, because he hasn't looked like it this time. And last time at the end of a preparation too, so I think now he's fresh up, and the 2 runs he's been fine, so it's been really good.
And let's talk about his record. I mean, not many people would know this, but he's never been out of the 1, 2, 3. In fact, from 14 starts, he's won 7, run second 6 times, and won third for over $1.1 million in prize money.
Well, that's the thing. I think he's doesn't get the credit he deserves. His first time he was here, went right through the whole campaign, right through and running second on the Chris Flyer, and then he had another campaign and had a first and 2 seconds, and this time he's had a third and a first, and his first up in the sprint the other day was beating the nose, and he's obviously improved from that. So if he had one run under his belt, he would have probably just about won that, I think. So, but he's just an amazing horse, big horse, quiet. He's just a dream to train, and very sound. So, yeah, you know, and when he came, he wasn't meant to be like this, so it turned out to be this good. So I think it's probably been a really amazing dream, actually.
Well, let's talk about that dream, because like you said, when he came, you didn't think he's going to be this good. In fact, no one did. You know, I mean, at what stage did you think, I mean, what were your first reactions when you saw him, your initial reaction? And then at what stage did it all start to turn around and you looked up and said, yeah, I think I've got a good one here?
Well, he never showed much at all. When he came, he's 570 kilos, and he was woolly, and he was big, and very quiet. And I thought, I wasn't too sure really where we were at with him. But when he had his first trial, Lisa Allpress rode him in the trial, and she said, "This horse is better than you think he is." And I said, "You sure?" I said, "Yep." I said, "He's better than I thought he'd be a Class 3 horse." And she said, "Yep, I'm telling you, this horse has got gears." And then he went out. I said, "Oh, okay, whatever." And then he went to his first race, and he just bolted in, and then he never looked back. So I think from that moment he won, and then he won his next, and I started thinking, this horse is a bit better than average. And then he got up to the grades, and we had a go at the bigger races, and I think he won his first big race, and he ran second to Zach Spirit, and then I knew we were pretty good. He only just beat us, I think, by a head that day. So if you can run second to Zach Spirit when he's like that, you know you're going pretty good. So yeah, so it just revolved really, and it's probably one of those situations that you don't expect it, and then it just keeps going and going and going, and you think, geez, you know, we've got something good here.
Yeah, you do. Now he has a very special relationship with his groom as well, doesn't he?
Yeah. Well, Uncle has been with me 15 years when I first came here, and he looks after Old Bay of Islands and looks after Max. So it's been it's been his. Look at him. He's happy as Larry. It's been his dream, and makes it worth getting out of bed. So we get a great thrill out of that, and you know, Gordon and Ernest, the boys that own them, they're really good to the staff and really good to our uncle here, and he's the oldest member of the staff, and does a great job, and I catch them quite often talking to each other. So, you know, to me, racing is it's got to have its stories and got to have its surprises and thrills, because there's a lot of disappointments, and the whole stable get a lot of thrill out of Max, and it's been great. It's been very, very good.
You spoke of his owners now. I know Gary Crisp has him rated much higher than where he actually is right now, and rightfully so, because when you take a look at his run behind Aero Velocity, yes, he is extremely highly rated, isn't he? Now, let's talk about an international campaign, because he's pretty much achieved what he has to here in Singapore.
Yeah, it was interesting because Gary, as you know, does ratings all around the world, and you know, he's massively regarded in the racing industry and for doing that. And he said he went to another level the other day and suggested we should go to Ascot, and so I put it to the owners, and we did a bit of research, and that's maybe still on the cards a little bit, but there's a few barriers to get over. As Gary said, that, you know, he can improve again, and there's the option there of going overseas, and you know, to be honest, that would be a dream for the owners and us to have that opportunity, but we just got to pick the right races and that suits him, and so there is definitely some thought going on to that at the moment.
And for his owners, they aren't just the owners, they've bred him, so that's doubly special.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, they bred him, and they bred a few, and they raced the mother, and so I think that's special. It's the only horse they have here. So what that means to me, you don't have to have 20, 30 horses to have a good horse, do you? It's not so much about being numbers. You need a bit of luck, of course. The less you have, the more luck you need, because you're going to have numbers. So no, it's been really good, and they've been absolutely brilliant to train for. They were brilliant before he even started winning. So it's not that they started winning, everything gets easy, and sometimes it can get harder when they wins. And you know, we had a little bit of a drama last year with having to take Lisa Allpress off it, and it was widely publicised, and they didn't really want to do that. It was a business decision, and you know, they tried to handle it well and humbly as they could, but that wasn't an easy time for them either. And so they've been through their little bit of ups and downs, but all the time, to me, they've been great to train for.
And the brood mares their own. But when you take a deeper look at the pedigree, there's something quite special. He's by Holy Roman Emperor, but there's some considerable black type performance on the dam side as well.
Yeah, the mother was a stakes place mare, and you know, I think they've sold the mare now. They don't have much of the family because they wanted to get out of breeding, and yeah, you know, it's a very interesting pedigree. Actually, when we looked it up before, there's a lot of outcross, isn't it? But you know, Star Kingdom on the bottom line, and both female, and the sire, and Holy Roman Emperor has done so well in Asia. He's the next, obviously everyone wants them there, and it's interesting he's going back to Australia to stand. So, you know, maybe a bit of luck, it all worked together. I don't know whether they chose that pedigree, but they have a close association with a friend of mine over there, Sean Dingwall, who's right into his pedigrees, and maybe that's why they went there. I've never really asked them.
Now, let's come back to the Chris Flyer for a moment. You know, you said racing's all about stories, and the race itself, it was highly emotional for you.
Yeah, it was. I was probably more emotional last year because I've never had the opportunity to have a crack at something like that, and you know, we don't get a massive overinflux of horses coming to us or big owners and that. So to have a one horse owner that bred it and to go right through to that thing, and then to run second, and in that first campaign, I was pretty proud of ourselves and our staff and the effort we put in, and to get him there. And then this year, everything just went so perfect. You know, I knew he would improve 2 or 3 lengths from his first start, and Corey got off him and was amazed how well he went, and then said to me, well, if he improves, I can win the Chris Flyer, and you know, we nearly did. And at the day, I was quite relaxed because I knew he was tip-top shape. And when he straightened up and halfway up the straight, I sort of looking to the side, and everyone was screaming and yelling. I thought one stage we might grab him, but it was great. You know, you live for those times, because there's a lot of negative times, isn't it? And I was really thrilled. And afterwards, I was so proud of the horse, and it was like winning the race. So we all went down, all the owners and our friends all went down when he rode in second. So the winners were cheering and yelling, but we were cheering and yelling a lot harder than they were. And we had a great support by the public. It was quite amazing on the ground floor there behind the fence. There must have been 10 deep, and they were all screaming and yelling for Max. So it was good, and you see it around you, and other people have that opportunities, and when it's your turn, you got to enjoy it, because they're damn hard to get, aren't they?
That's right. And you'd mentioned something, I didn't exactly catch it at that moment because there was just so much going on. But you said it had been a tough time, I think, for the owners or someone associated with the horse coming into this one.
No, I don't think so. I think everything was all right. I just think it's, it was a bit of pressure to get him there and get him to the race, and worrying about he might bleed again. But I think everything's went perfect. And I said to the owners before the race, but I don't like saying it, but I think he can win the race. And I don't often really say that, not in those big stuff. So no, we were very, very happy with him going into it. And it's just funny the way it panned out. Corey said I could have just about led. If I led, I reckon I might have won the race, because the good horse had a soft lead in the end, and we thought there'd be more speed. We thought the filly would go forward, and maybe some of the outside horses would go forward, but they didn't, and he ended up getting quite a soft lead. So, but we got a nice trip behind, and there was a bit of traffic problems behind, so it still worked out okay. So, but as Corey said, if he did work like that, we could have went to the lead and got a soft lead. It might have been different too, because I still believe in him leading. He's hard to get past because he just keeps running that strong tempo. Yeah, so no, I think everything went pretty well on the day, and it was a good relief afterwards. So
You'd like another shot at the winner?
yeah, of course, but he's right up there with the best. And look, to be honest, I think where we've done with Max up till now, and his form stays, I think myself and my staff and my head man Peter, who works hard on him, and Smiley, my apprentice, they do a lot of work on him, and I think we've done a damn good job. And we're very thankful to get to this stage. So whatever happens from there on would be the bonus. But I do believe next year could be even better. We'll have more time to get him ready. There's not a lot here for him, so I was keen maybe to go to Europe to give him a couple of races, because I felt that a trip away, get him back on the cool air and have a crack, I think it would be good for his brain and good for his, just how it changes horses and improves them. And I think he could come back and do very well. But the problem is that there's some good 3-year-olds around there, and young horses get younger and they keep coming through, and there's one good horse there we know that's floating around that didn't have a crack at them this year. Is a very good horse. But hey, Max keeps stepping up, and the other day was a pretty big sprint in my opinion. He cleaned the locals up, so I think he's one of the best sprinters here for sure.
He certainly is, and we'll be watching his career with a lot of interest, and we wish you all the best with him, Stephen.
Yeah, it's been great. It's been very special, and I think we're very blessed to have the opportunity. And as I said, racing is full of so many downers, and there's a lot of other owners out there who'll be saying the same thing. They've put a lot onto it and haven't had the opportunity, and we have. And I've seen other good trainers here with good horses have the opportunity and say one day that could be us, and that's what keeps you going. And to go there and compete and know you can is very self-filling. Like you feel very comfortable with yourself, and you sit down at night and say, well, I couldn't have done any better, and you competed, so you're up there with as good as anyone else. So yeah, that was great. So.
And back home, I mean, something like this, you can't leave him behind the stables. He comes home, I'm sure, Bridget and the kids, I'm sure there's dinner conversation around Empreror Max, isn't there?
My James and Katie, they watch the race. James, they both ride ponies, and you've done footage of my kids. They've grown up here when they were born here, so they're all exciting and cheering for them. But the saddest thing, I wish I could take them to the races, and that's the issue I have. That for the next generation, how they're going to be interested if they can't go to the races. So you got our kids, and even though I had my friends there that don't even race horses that were there, and some that raced horses, we had 3-4 tables, and it was a good occasion. They were all there, and I know Gordon, especially because he lives here, has made new friends with the racing, and he's made some good friends, and it was just a big, very special occasion, one that you treasure. And we got home that night late, and our 2 kids were still up. They were still excited, and disappointed they never won. But maybe next year.
Maybe next year, and well, In our hearts, he did win. Thanks very much, Stephen.
Yeah, I think he did. I think he did Singapore proud.
Welcome back to Horse Sense. Let's move right along. It's time now for us to take a look at, well, the latest sires. Let's see how they are stacking up on top of each other. The sire list for 2015 throws up some interesting results. In Singapore, the list of leading sires based on earnings has Shamadal on top with total earnings of over $1.7 million. Shamadal had won the French Derby with Frankie Dettori in the saddle and then followed it up with a victory in the Group 1 St. James Palace Stakes at Royal Ascot in the Godolphin Silks. He went on to sire a number of notable winners, including Gingerbread Man in Singapore. English Channel, who sired the China Horse Club mare Peranda, is in second with earnings of over $1.65 million, and Darcy Brahma is in third. The sire list for Singapore based on winners has Darcy Brahma on top with Elusive City in second. Alamosa is in third, and both Shamadal and English Channel fall out of the top 10 in this list. The owner of Dan XL, David, thank you so much for speaking with us.
Thank you.
Coming here to Singapore, you know, you've had such success with a horse like Dan XL. Let's start right out there. The story of Dan XL, how did it all happen?
Well, Dan XL was a horse that we brought as a 3-year-old. We brought him for the Hong Kong Derby. He came to Hong Kong about 4 months before the Derby and didn't quite acclimatise in time. He came as an entire. John Moore suggested that we geld him. I made the mistake of holding on too long. So finally we gelded him, and then he won his last race in the first season in Hong Kong. And then in his second season, he won the Champions Mile, and then he came to Singapore and came second. He then had another stellar career in his previous season to this, and he didn't win actually, but he had a lot of placings in very big Group 1 races, so he's invited back to Singapore, and it was our third time to Singapore. Our first horse was Happy Zero, came third. Dan XL came second the year before, and I said to Debbie that we had to come and win this time, third, second, first, and that's actually what happened. So he's been called the galloping ATM because he always tries so hard and he always seems to get some kind of prize money, and he's been a great horse for us all these years since we've had him.
And there's a story behind how he was named as well, wasn't he? We discussed that last year after he won.
That's correct, yes. His mother is Love Excelling, which is the Excel, and his father is Shamadal. So I was going to call him Dal XL, because dal is a very popular Indian dish, as you know. But my very good friend suggested that since I have a son by the name of Daniel, call him Dan XL. So we named him after Daniel. And when he won the SIA Cup last year, it was actually Daniel's birthday on the exact same day. So he was here to celebrate with us, which is really a fairy tale.
There really is a fairy tale. Let's talk about fairy tales. How did this all begin? Your interest in horse racing, where did it all start from?
Well, I remember as a 10-year-old boy, I was following the form. I had a sign on my bedroom door, the Northern Suburbs Racing Advisory Service, and my parents had interest in horses, and I think it was just something that was inbred in me. And once I met my wife, Mimi, she immediately was attracted to the sport as well. So now she calls Dan XL her horse son. So it's been something that's been a passion of mine for almost all of my life.
Okay, outside of horse racing, you know, you're an investor, you have business interests all across the world. How much time do you spend on horse racing?
Well, it's a good question. My partners and I purchased a horse agistment farm in Australia a few years ago, and we're actually developing a business of buying young horses, training them to be race horses, and selling them to Asia, especially to Singapore and Hong Kong. So I'm finding I'm spending more and more time in the thoroughbred racing business, and it's something that I really very much enjoy. So it's a delight, and my father always told me, if you're doing something that you enjoy, keep doing it. So I'm going to continue to be involved in this business, and I hope to be back in Singapore for many years, because here in Singapore, the Singapore Turf Club do such a great job. Singapore Airlines such good sponsors, and we just love to be here and be part of this racing festival.
Now, as far as David goes, who is he outside of outside of the racing world? The person we know is at the racetrack. He's smiling. He's affable. It's a lot of fun, but it's a demanding world out there. So, outside of the racing world, your character, your personality, who are you?
Well, my profession is accountancy. I guess my outside of horse racing, my passion is my family, my wife and my children, and my mum, of course. And additionally, we have set up several charities around Asia to help underprivileged children. So that is really a big passion of ours as well. And fortunately, we've been very lucky with the horse racing, and that's been able to help a lot of children who have not that much, have a good start in society. And we're really pleased that we're able to help the children who don't have things as well as what they should be in this modern society. And that's really become a passion of ours. So my wife has been supporting orphanages around Asia for many, many years. We have youth centres in Thailand, in Hong Kong, in Myanmar, and we really hope to encourage the next generation of children to have the opportunities that we've been able to have. And we're fortunate to live in a very prosperous world. We're in a beautiful hotel tonight. A lot of people don't have that opportunity. We're trying to give that opportunity to these children, and that's a real passion of mine too. So,
Well, that's absolutely wonderful. It truly is, and we wish you all the success there. Personal ambitions in horse racing, outside of horse racing, whatever they may be. What are your personal ambitions?
well, at this stage of my life, my personal ambitions are to educate my children and get them ready and into the world as much as I can possibly do as a parent. And my other passion is what I just talked about, is helping those who don't really have as much as we do, the underprivileged, especially children, especially in this part of the world in Southeast Asia where I spend most of my life.
Now, there's a saying: the harder you work, the luckier you get. So, in my mind, in my book, there's no such thing as good luck. It's just how hard you work. So, what's a message that you could send out to our viewers? How easy is it to be successful in a sport like horse racing?
Actually, it's very difficult, and I guess I owned my first horse in 1988, and since then I've been fortunate to have 3 Group 1 winners, and that is an incredible achievement, as anyone who's involved in the sport will know. But one of my friends, who's a Japanese horse owner, he breeds horses. He had his first Group 1 winner last month after 28 years in the sport. So I think that what I would counsel those who want to get involved is, the most important thing is to enjoy it. Have a lot of friends with you, because unfortunately most of the time your horse doesn't win. So you want to have people around you to share the commiserations as well as the glory. And as much as possible, control the variables. So have a good relationship with your trainer, as I do with John Moore. Have a good relationship with your jockeys, engage with them, see them outside of the racing, and as much as possible get involved with the sport, get involved with the turf club, the jockey club, and control the variables. And I think, as you say, it takes a bit of hard work, but the result, if you get a success, is really worth it.
Well, that's all we have on this episode of Horse Sense. Do follow me on Twitter at Mohit Lalvani. You can see this episode again at our YouTube channel, www.youtube.com/winningpostracing. Until I see you, well, on our next episode. Thank you for joining me. Goodbye. And as always, may the horse be with you.